Public speaking, doctrines and practices. Critical research into the doctrines and their applications. Eloquence is power, so is silence. Silence too is power. There is importance of pauses in speech. And even otherwise, silence is power. So my credibility in this subject is the whole life preparation, interest, address, research, in doctrinal studies, experimentation, and application of principles. And hence I engaged in this intellectual enterprise of a very important nature. So with a very strong base of critical studies, doctrinal and applied researches, you find me intellectually active and hopeful of value to yourself for achieving great things in life with the help of oratory, public speaking skills. Public speaking skills are required for our day-to-day activities, in speaking in our family, with our friends, in the marketplace, also in teaching and in public life. So public speaking is an art of communication, and what we learn hereby will be applied to our speech in the public and also in our speaking in our lives generally. Public speaking requires self-confidence. If we are a subject, we can speak confidently. So we are not supposed to speak unprepared. If we do not speak a subject, we will not develop the conviction to speak it. But developing expertise and updating is a lifelong process. So we cannot wait for the entire life to begin our activities. We will have to work with care and to take sufficient precautions that we do not go wrong. So our practice in whatever field we want to speak must be sufficient to enable us to be able to speak to others, because in the audience there will be many experts sitting on the subject. Maybe persons who do not know the subject or know a little, or they are highly expert on the subject. So we have to be highly careful while addressing the gathering, and we should be prepared on the subject on which we speak. Nervousness is common. In fact, the dictionary says nervousness means strength, power, vigor, easily excitable and weak. It is the experience of the generations that a little nervousness in the beginning is a positive sign, because this nervousness is due to the realization that the speaker has a great responsibility, and the feeling of responsibility makes him a little nervous. Also, it is a positive energy, because when this nervous energy is brought under control, it can work wonders. It is easily excitable, so it creates enthusiasm. It creates interest in the field of activity. The excitement for our work, the excitement in speaking, utsaha, umang, that is very essential for the success of the speech. Dale Carnegie, who had pioneered this teaching on public speaking, he used to live in a Missouri farm, and later he shifted to another farm in Missouri, which was around 3 miles distance from the State Teachers College where he was getting education. And he had to practice public speaking standing on the heap of grass, dry grass. He used to practice public speaking while going and coming from his stock trading college. And at the beginning, he was not so successful, but later all his speeches were successful, and the students came to him for guidance. So Dale Carnegie is the pioneer in this field of public speaking. He has written in books the experiences of other persons and has done a very critical research work in the field. All great speakers had nervousness in the beginning. William Jennings Bryan, who was the battle scarred general, when he first tried to speak, his knees were trembling. The Mark Twain, a great writer and speaker, when he began to talk, he felt that his mouth was filled with cotton. Jean-Georges, a leader of the France, sat in his chamber of deputies for 1 full year without speaking any word. Charles Stuart Parnell, a great leader of France, he used to be so tense in speaking that his nails will sink into his palm and blood will trickle down. Charles Stuart Parnell, the greatest speaker of Ireland, had so much nervous tension in the beginning. Cicero, the famous orator, has said that all great speaking, eloquence, oratory is characterized by nervousness. Abraham Lincoln, who was the President of the United States of America, used to be a little nervous at the commencement of every talk that he gave in his life. It was not in the beginning of his career, but throughout his life, when he rose up for speaking, a little nervousness came in. But as he advanced in speaking, he gained enthusiasm and projected his personality on the audience, and he was a great orator. Lincoln's persistence and self-confidence led to creation of great orations, which are remembered to this date. The greatest oration that he made was the Gettysburg Address, where after the Civil War, he was requested by the organizers of the cemetery to make appropriate remarks. And there he spoke with the application of V theory that is being taught in the schools of public speaking even today. He said, 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth in this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Today we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that land, a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that this nation might live. This is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger measure we cannot do so. We cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow the ground, because those great men who here fought and gave their lives have dedicated it, consecrated it for our little far above our little power to do so. The word will little note not long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us to living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished task which who fought here have so far nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we should take increased devotion to our cause, for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead should not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, for the people, by the people, shall not perish from this earth. This quotation, government of the people, for the people, by the people, is still being quoted as a definition of democracy. In this oration, Lincoln said, what we say here, people will little note but not long remember what we say here. It is a we theory here. It is the Lincoln's speech. He could have said what I say here, but he said what we say here. We is the word which is used to imply the participation of the listeners, and is very effective in public speaking or other walks of life where we need the cooperation of other persons. In we theory, when Vivekananda addressed sisters and brothers of America, he applied the we theory, and it was derived from Mata Bhumi Putroham Prithivyaha. This earth is our mother, and we are children of this mother, and that is why we are all brothers and sisters. So he said, brothers and sisters of America. It was a new expression for the United States of America, and he got the applause. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas is based on the theory and the doctrine of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. This has in it the element of we theory, Sarva, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. My address, Amritasya Putraha, when I speak, nowadays, I generally say Amritasya Putraha. Why? It is based on Sarvam Brahmayam Jagat. That all universe is the manifestation of the great supreme power, Param Brahman. We are all children of immortality, we theory. Also, I remind them about their inherent powers, remind what they have forgotten. And hence, this is necessary to refer to them as Amritasya Putraha. Had they been aware of their immortality, of their inheritance, they would have been more effective in life. We present the truth as ancient doctrine. Whatever new statement of truth we make in public addresses, we should present them as an ancient doctrine in the form of epigrams. Just as Mr. Churchill used to frame his speeches in epigrammatic form. For instance, in war, resolution. In war, resolution. In defeat, defiance. In victory, magnanimity. In peace, goodwill. We can also add our own expressions. We can further add, in adversity, optimism. In a struggle, persistence. In research, meta-consciousness. In distress, sporting. It is the experience of persons who are taking training in public speaking institutes that public speaking is a acquired skill. Any person who is seriously interested in public speaking can acquire this skill by understanding the doctrines, principles, and practices of speech making. He can acquire this ability. This ability can be acquired. And initially, we feel a little nervous tension while addressing the gathering. But it's the experience of great speakers in their life that after a long period of practice they have found that a large gathering inspires the speaker. Nervousness is normal, And nervousness is strength and vigor when it is brought under control by practice. That is why our principle is prepare, practice earnestly, and visualization is most important. As Professor James has said, that we are using less than 10% of our mental faculties. If you visualize that we are addressing a gathering and the people are listening with rapt attention and giving the applause to the visualizer, and it is visualized as a reality in mind, as a mind's reality, then it will become natural for him whenever he goes to speak. That visualization will support him. That is the kind of rehearsal that he has made. The visualization is very necessary for the success of a speaker. In any walk of life, visualization is important because mental visualization, the thoughts in visualization take the form, they become the ground reality. That is why we hear in summarize that public speaking is an acquired skill. It is an acquired ability. It can be acquired by practice. Facing the group inspires the speaker. Initially, the speaker may have to be self-inspired. Generally, all speakers are self-inspired and they project their inspired personality over the audience. Nervousness is normal. It is in a power. When brought under control, it helps us. And therefore, we must prepare, practice earnestly, and visualize. So I've summarized these points. These points are few. And this is one of the styles of speaking. For professors and teachers, that they mention what they're going to discuss in the beginning. Then discuss that subject, and afterwards they summarize what they've discussed. So in the beginning of this lecture, we discuss what we are going to talk in this lecture. Then we discuss the subject itself, and then we have summarized the lecture. So this is one style of public speaking, of informative public speaking. In the next lecture, we will be taking persuasive public speaking, where a speaker persuades the audience for in some achievement.